Have you ever been ignored by your own family? It's a quiet pain that creeps in slowly, especially when it comes from the family you've loved and supported for years. And the most frustrating part? Getting angry only seems to make things worse. The more you raise your voice, the more they tune you out. The more you try to explain, the more they roll their eyes. So what do you do when respect is missing, but you're not ready to walk away? In this video, we're going to talk about something most people never tell you: how to respond when your family disrespects you without anger, without begging, and without losing your sense of self. These 7 strategies are not about punishing anyone or playing games. They're about reclaiming your power in quiet, steady ways that change how others see you, how they treat you, and most of all, how you feel about yourself. Stay with us until the end, because the final tip may be the most powerful, and it could change not only how your family treats you, but how you carry yourself through every relationship in your life. If you've ever felt disrespected, dismissed, or diminished by the people closest to you, this video is for you. Let's begin. Number 1, emotional distance that commands respect. The first thing many people do when they feel disrespected by family is react, either by explaining, pleading, or getting angry. But none of these responses work in your favor. In fact, they often reinforce the very behavior you're hoping will stop. What actually begins to shift? The dynamic is something quieter and more deliberate: emotional distance. This doesn't mean cutting off contact or becoming cold. It means stepping back just enough to stop chasing their approval and start protecting your peace. When someone in your family speaks over you, ignores your advice, or treats your kindness like an obligation, it's natural to want to fix it. But fixing something that isn't being valued becomes a one-sided project. Emotional distance lets others feel the weight of your absence, even while you remain present. It looks like not replying immediately when they call only out of convenience. It means not going out of your way to offer help when it's taken for granted. You remain kind, polite, and calm, but you stop overextending. And that quiet shift sends a stronger message than any confrontation could. I once knew a man named Thomas, 78, who used to drive his daughter and her children all over town, appointments, errands, anything they needed. He never complained. But over time, they stopped saying thank you. They started assuming he'd always be there. And when he brought it up, they laughed it off like he was being too sensitive. So he did something simple. He stopped offering. He didn't argue. He just quietly returned to his own schedule. It didn't take long for them to notice, and more importantly, to ask with more respect the next time they needed something. This kind of emotional boundary isn't about being cold or withholding. It's about recognizing that love without limits often becomes invisible. People stop seeing what you give when it's always there without cost. So the best thing you can do, especially if you've been overgiving for years, is to gently shift the weight back onto their side. Let them reach out. Let them wonder where your energy went. That pause in your effort may be the very thing that reawakens their appreciation. It's also important to notice what emotional distance does for you. It gives you space to breathe. It helps you see your own worth more clearly, separate from their reactions. And once you begin living from that space, not from frustration or people-pleasing, but from quiet self-respect, you become someone others naturally start treating differently. Not because you demanded it, but because you stop making it so easy to ignore. Sometimes the most powerful message is the one you deliver, by saying nothing and doing less. Number 2, the power of silence in disrespectful moments. When someone in your family says something that cuts deep, something dismissive, sarcastic, or just plain rude, your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to snap back, or to explain what they misunderstood. But here's the truth: most people miss arguing in those moments. Doesn't make you look stronger. It makes you look rattled. And when people see that they can push your buttons, even accidentally, they're less likely to take you seriously the next time. What works far better, though it takes some practice, is silence. Intentional, well-placed silence. Silence isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's a signal that says, I heard what you said, and I'm choosing not to give it power. And in families, especially where patterns run deep, this kind of silence can disrupt long-standing dynamics in the best way. When you go quiet after a disrespectful remark, you're doing more than ignoring the comment. You're refusing to reward it. You're making the moment feel heavier, and that weight often brings awareness. Even if they don't admit it out loud, they notice. And over time, they think twice. I knew a woman named Linda, 74, who used to get teased at every family dinner. They'd call her old-fashioned or say she worried too much. She used to laugh along just to keep the peace, but it hurt. One year, she stopped laughing. She didn't respond at all. She just looked at the person, held eye contact for a moment, and then turned her attention elsewhere. The room felt different. The comments stopped, and eventually her family noticed something else. They missed her warmth, her stories, her presence. That's the paradox of silence. Sometimes not saying anything becomes the loudest message in the room. This approach works best when paired with calm body language. No eye rolling, no sighing, no dramatic exits. Just stillness, a short pause, and then a shift back to your plate, back to your book, back to a task that doesn't involve explaining yourself to someone who doesn't seem ready to listen. You stay grounded in your dignity, not their chaos. You'll be tempted to fill the silence, to break it with a joke or a correction. But if you hold it, even just for a few seconds, you give yourself the chance to feel your own strength again. You stop playing the same old role and start standing in something new. It might feel awkward at first. It might even feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's growth. That's the sound of a pattern beginning to shift. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, small boundaries that make a big impact. One of the most overlooked ways to restore respect in a family is also one of the simplest: start setting boundaries. But do it quietly, calmly, and consistently. When people think of boundaries, they often imagine dramatic speeches, drawn-out arguments, or cutting people off entirely. But real boundaries don't look like ultimatums. They look like quiet lines drawn in everyday life. And once you start drawing them, even in small ways, you begin to teach others how to treat you without ever raising your voice. Boundaries are less about what others do and more about what you allow. Maybe it's your daughter calling late at night just to vent, leaving you too tense to sleep. A boundary might be letting the call go to voicemail after 9 p.m. Maybe it's your son expecting you to babysit at a moment's notice, without ever saying thank you. A boundary might be, I'm not available this weekend, without offering an excuse. Each of these decisions sends a message: your time matters, your rest matters, and your peace is not for sale. I once knew a man named Harold, 81, who used to attend every family gathering, even when they made him uncomfortable. He'd sit through arguments, tolerate backhanded jokes, and leave feeling drained. Then one year he RSVP'd no explanation, no apology, just a polite decline. That small act of self-protection caused a ripple. His family began to notice his absence, not just physically, but emotionally. And they started wondering, not angrily, but curiously, what would make him feel respected enough to return. The key with boundaries is follow-through. Don't just say it, live it. If you set a time when you won't be available, stick to it. If someone speaks to you in a tone you no longer accept, excuse yourself calmly and don't return to the conversation until it's shifted. These aren't acts of aggression, they're acts of self-respect. And over time, even the most dismissive family member begins to sense that something has changed, that your time, your energy, your presence are not guarantees. They're privileges. Boundaries also teach you something powerful about yourself. They remind you that you're not helpless in the face of disrespect. You have choices, you have options, and you have the right to move through your days with dignity, even when others don't offer it freely. When you begin honoring yourself in these small, consistent ways, you stop waiting for others to do it first. You stop asking for permission to be treated well. You start showing what that looks like, simply by how you carry yourself. And that kind of leadership is often what turns things around, not instantly, but steadily and with lasting effect. Number 4, actions that speak louder than lectures. When you've been disrespected, especially by family, there's a natural urge to explain, to correct, or to teach. You may find yourself thinking, if I could just help them understand how much I've done, they treat me better. But too often, those explanations fall flat. They get brushed aside, misheard, or worse, used against you. That's because when someone has already decided not to respect you, your words stop carrying weight. What does carry weight, though, are your actions, especially the ones that are steady, quiet, and unmistakable. People notice patterns, not speeches. They notice when you stop jumping in to fix things, when you stop reminding them to call, when you quietly excuse yourself from conversations that cross the line. You don't have to point out what you're doing. You just have to do it. And over time, they begin to see you differently. Not because you told them to, but because your behavior demands a new level of attention. That shift in energy is often what plants the seed of respect where there was once only expectation. I once knew a woman named Patricia, 76, who used to be the family peacemaker. Whenever her kids argued, she'd step in. When someone forgot a birthday, she made sure it was still celebrated. But year after year, her efforts were taken for granted. So she tried something new. She didn't give a lecture. She just stepped back. When no one planned her own birthday, she didn't mention it. She spent the day with a neighbor, quietly content. That one act, no drama, no guilt, changed the entire dynamic. Her children realized how much she'd been holding things together, not because she said it, but because they felt the absence of her effort. The most effective form of communication when it comes to respect is modeling. When you show what dignity looks like, by speaking calmly, by withdrawing from toxic moments, by investing your time where it's returned, you teach others not by instruction, but by example. You don't need to explain why you're doing less. You don't need to justify your limits. The people who matter will notice. And the ones who don't, they were never really listening in the first place. And here's the truth, when you stop trying to convince people to treat you well, you free up space to start living well. No matter how they respond, you stop being caught in the loop of, why don't they see what I do? And start asking, what else could I do with my energy today? And that simple question, asked consistently, is what shifts your life from reaction to leadership. Not leadership over others, but over yourself. The kind of leadership that doesn't raise its voice, but stands a little taller, speaks a little slower, and commands attention without ever asking for it. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, self-respect routines that change how they see you. When you've spent years doing for others, showing up no matter how you're treated, and putting their comfort ahead of your own, it's easy for people to forget or never truly see what makes you valuable. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do when you're not being respected isn't to demand recognition, but to start pouring effort into something else entirely yourself. And not in dramatic ways, but through small daily routines that restore your self-respect and slowly shift how others see you. It might begin with the way you dress in the morning, not to impress anyone, but because you want to walk through your day feeling put together. It might mean eating meals at the table instead of in front of the television, or keeping your space clean and orderly, not for guests, but for your own sense of peace. It might look like committing to a short walk every day, listening to music you love, or reading something that expands your mind. These aren't luxuries. They're signals to yourself first, and eventually to those around you, that you value your life, your time, and your presence. I remember a man named Richard, 80, who had spent most of his life taking care of others. When his family began treating him like he had nothing left to offer, he didn't confront them. He didn't complain. He started taking better care of himself. He got a new haircut. He started going to the community center twice a week for morning classes. And slowly his energy changed. He smiled more. He spoke differently. And when his family noticed, so did their tone. They didn't say it outright, but they began listening more closely when he spoke, asking for his opinion again. Not because he asked for their attention, but because he stopped looking like someone who'd given up. When you show up for yourself, others have no choice but to notice. It's not about flaunting anything. It's about carrying yourself with enough care that people begin to wonder why. Why are you standing taller? Why are you speaking less and smiling more? That curiosity often turns into admiration, and admiration leads to respect, even from those who once dismissed you. What matters most is that these routines aren't for them. They're for you. Because the moment you begin treating yourself with the care and attention you always hope to receive from others, you stop being dependent on their validation. And ironically, that's when people start giving it. Not because they were forced, but because they were inspired. That shift starts inside you with every small, consistent action that says, I still matter. I always did. Number 6, strength and support beyond the family circle. When respect within the family is lacking, it can feel like the world itself is shrinking. Like the people you were supposed to lean on have stepped back or shut down. And in that loneliness, it's easy to start believing that something's wrong with you, or that there's nowhere else to turn. But here's something few people talk about. One of the fastest ways to restore your sense of value isn't by fixing your family. It's by finding connection beyond them. Friends, neighbors, groups, even strangers who treat you with kindness. Those people may not carry your blood, but they can nourish your spirit just the same. The truth is, too many older adults shrink their circle over time. Kids move away. Old friends drift apart. And without realizing it, you end up leaning more and more on the few family members still close by, even if they've stopped treating you well. That over-reliance becomes emotional quicksand. But the good news is, you're never too old to expand your circle. Whether it's a weekly class, a faith group, a walking club, or just a familiar face at the grocery store, small interactions outside the home begin to refill what disrespect drains out. I once knew a woman named Teresa, 82, who had all but given up on being heard at home. Her son barely visited. Her grandchildren were polite but distant. One day she started volunteering twice a month at a local community kitchen, not because she had the time, but because she needed to feel useful again. Within weeks, something changed. Her laughter came back. Her posture shifted. And when her son did finally come by, he noticed. "You seem different, Mom," he said. Her life had grown wider than just his opinion. These outside connections aren't replacements. They're reinforcements. They remind you of how much you still have to offer, how full your conversations can be, and how your wisdom still has value. When your identity becomes too tightly bound to people who don't respect you, it's easy to forget your worth. But once you begin placing your energy where it's welcomed, your confidence starts to repair itself, quietly, steadily, and without apology. And here's something else: when your family sees that you're not waiting around for their approval anymore, that you're investing your time in people who actually see and value you, they begin to reevaluate. Maybe not all at once, but over time, the message becomes clear. You're not stuck, you're not desperate, and you're not living on their terms. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 7, reframing disrespect as a mirror, not a measure. When someone in your family disrespects you, it's easy to take it personally, to believe it says something about your worth, your failures, or the kind of parent or sibling you've been. But the truth is often something very different. Disrespect rarely comes from clarity. It comes from confusion, projection, or pain. When people speak to you in a way that's cold, dismissive, or sarcastic, they're not always describing you. More often than not, they're revealing themselves, their stress, their immaturity, their unresolved emotions. And learning to see it that way can free you from carrying burdens that were never yours to begin with. There's a quiet strength that comes from understanding this. It means you stop reacting as if every harsh word is a personal attack. You begin seeing those moments as reflections, not definitions. It's like looking into a cracked mirror and realizing the distortion isn't your fault. And the best part is, when you stop reacting to their projections, they eventually lose interest in throwing them at you. I knew a man named Samuel, 85, who had spent years trying to earn his son's approval. No matter what he did, gifts, support, visits, it was never enough. The comments kept coming. You were never there when I needed you, or you just don't get it. But instead of pushing back, Samuel quietly began to listen with a new kind of filter. He told me, I realized he wasn't speaking to me. He was speaking to the father he remembers, the one in his head. That shift changed everything. Samuel still showed up, but he stopped apologizing for things he'd already made peace with. And in time, the tone softened. This is what it means to lead with grace instead of resentment. It means seeing others' behavior through a lens of compassion, not confusion. That doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means understanding it enough that it doesn't stick to you. And once you do that, something inside you settles. You begin to see your own story more clearly, not through the judgments of others, but through your own wisdom and reflection. When you lead with this kind of grace, you become harder to shake. Your energy changes. You stop absorbing negativity like a sponge and start deflecting it like a mirror. You may still feel sadness or frustration, but it won't pull you under. Because you'll know the difference between what belongs to you and what never did. And for the people around you, that shift is noticeable. They may not say it, but they feel it. You're not reacting the way you used to. You're not defending or over-explaining. You're simply being steady, grounded, unbothered. That presence has weight. It invites curiosity, then respect. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. The Reunanos. Final thoughts, Timurn. If your family has ever made you feel small, invisible, or not enough, I want you to know this: you are not powerless. You don't have to yell to be heard, and you don't need anyone's permission to live with dignity. Every small choice you make, stepping back instead of chasing approval, holding silence instead of defending yourself, building routines that nourish you, connecting beyond the walls of your home, each one is a quiet declaration that says, I respect myself whether you do or not. And that kind of self-respect has a ripple effect. People begin to notice. Energy shifts. And slowly, without conflict or demand, your presence starts to carry a different weight. You're no longer just the person they take for granted. You're the person they start to listen to again, if only because your peace speaks louder than their noise ever could. So if you take nothing else from this video, remember this: you can't force anyone to see your worth, but you can live in a way that makes it unmistakable. And once you begin, you don't just get their respect, you get something far more important. If this video spoke to you, I invite you to share it with someone who might need it too. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more insights like these. Until next time, stay grounded, stay steady, and never forget, your value was never up for debate. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.